God damn it. Broadcast. There. Yeah, so, yeah, welcome to episode 90 of Shooting Shit. You bunch of shenanigan peoples that come on and listen to my ramblings. Tonight, we have DSEX. That man. Or, yes, and you, and my co-host, Unvarnished Void. Again, well, obviously it's our co-host. She might be here. She wasn't here. She would be doing her job right. So, yeah, that's about it. So, I don't know. I'll start with me, maybe. This week I haven't been doing much because I've been busy doing something else. But I did play Saturday. We played Ark. I played it with Mega Mike and some of the Shem. Is it Shem World? Shem World guys. We're sort of like level 19 or so. We've built our own wee place. I don't know what server it's on, but yes. So we'll probably be doing that. Actually, we are doing that on Saturday at 8:30. I think it starts. I think they've got their own stream. I think it's streamed on Twitch.
That's 8:30
probably
in the evening, not the morning, presumably.
Yes. 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time or British Summer Time, whichever one you want to call it.
It's standard. Standard, innit?
It can be both, though. I've seen it done both, even if you Google it.
It's true, but it's wrong. Basically, they're wrong because it's like the Greenwich that decides what this fucking shit is. They're responsible for all time. They're the Time Lords.
Yeah,
they're the real Time Lords.
Pretty much, that's the way it works. The Greenwich, I don't know how that worked, but seemingly they had the first clock or something. I don't know.
No, not at all. It was. I mean, Paris. They were trying to get hold of like where the meridian line goes through because. Greenwich is where the zero meridian goes through, and you've got the Greenwich Observatory up there. It's very nice if anyone ever comes down to London and wants to look at it. I've gone through there many times. There's lots of nice places to eat and drink, as well as a lovely park. But I'm not working for the tourist board of Greenwich, so yes, you've got the observatory. It's a bit of a walk up a hill to get up there, but it's a pretty good view up there. You've got the meridian line itself. There's like they've got basically like a sort of metal line, essentially, sort of marking where the zero meridian line is. And when they were coming up with this, there was something about who was going to get hold of like the zero line. And like I say, I think the French want it to be for Paris. And I think it's possibly that everyone else said, no, fuck it, we'll have it for London then.
Yeah, well,
fucking French. I don't know. I don't know, but I do remember that. You'd have to look it up. It's called the internet. You might possibly be using it now because that's the only fucking way you could listen to this shit. So don't make me do your googling for you.
Yeah. I don't know. I just know it's what they call GMT was Greenwich. That's all I know about Greenwich.
Greenwich Mean Time.
It's something to do with them, and it's the zero clock that everyone works on. So I have no idea how it came about, but that's it.
Like I say, the zero meridian line. So there's a series of longitudinal lines that the Earth is sectioned into of degrees, as in like degrees in a circle, right? So the 0th degree line that goes through Greenwich, and then you've got like a 90-degree line that goes like quarter way around the world and so forth. That's and then.
So is that how you get coordinates?
Yeah, basically it's how coordinates on the globe are measured. So you know that anything on the you basically got, so if you're south or north of the equator, you say like you're south or north, and then you say whether you're east, how much you're east or west of the meridian. I can't remember. It's degrees, minutes, seconds is how it's measured for some reason. I don't know. I've probably because of naval history, where the only way to measure longitude, and this is the case even like pretty much before systems like GPS came around, was you had to have an accurate way of counting time in order to figure out basically how far you'd gone using a simple formula of speed times time equals distance.
Yep.
Simple as that, basically. So you had to know your speed, know the time, and measure those two things. And that's the only way for a long time that people could figure out how far
That
across
actually makes
the Earth
sense,
they'd gone.
because back then we had like the biggest navy, like
Yeah.
ever. So it makes sense that
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly
were
what
like,
time.
yeah, that's
It would have been. Yeah, it would have been in the 1800s at some point this had happened. What else is important? Yeah, so latitude's never been a problem because you can figure out latitude from knowing the time of year and having a sextant, which was an ancient device, but basically it allows you to measure Polaris, the
North Star.
North Star, and you can basically work out from that, and that's north, and then you can figure out your latitude by measuring from like what angle it is from the horizon, and that gives you an idea of how far up or down the globe you are, because obviously the sky will change the further north or south you go. And obviously, once you get past the equator, you start seeing the South Stars, and the Southern Cross is the equivalent if you're in the southern hemisphere. That's where you'd be lining up. But obviously, because the majority of seafaring has been for years and years that were using this was going on in the northern hemisphere. It wasn't until Europeans started traveling south that this really started happening. I mean, presumably there were people around that area of the world who
Done it that
were
way.
traveling, but I don't believe. I mean, the Aborigines certainly didn't weren't seafarers. I'm not aware. I mean, quite
Well,
possibly
not as much. You
you've
mean
got
like they might have,
well,
but not
well,
like on big massive fleets like we done.
well,
If you know what I
well, not
mean.
even that, because obviously their lifestyle is to live in the bush area.
Yep.
Now, probably, and I'm really only inferring from logic. You've got that chain of islands that pretty much leads, and we know obviously the continental drift and the change in landmass and so forth means you can see like going through the Philippines and stuff. Humans probably came through Asia. Like some of them obviously could have travelled some distances on land, possibly land bridges that don't exist anymore, or through short trips and sailing to basically go all the way down there. Probably at some point ended up being able to get to Australia. Australia then being cut off to further human immigration for some time until Whitey comes along, of course. So
Yep.
we think that's probably some 30,000 years ago or something. So that's a long time to be sort of isolated from the rest of the world, considering what has gone on, obviously, with the rest of the world over that period of time. Um, so yeah, interesting stuff. We don't really know. We don't really know a lot of this stuff because obviously it's finding like the trail and the evidence for it is quite difficult. But
Yeah, especially if the
they are.
people that were living there, like historically, never fucking wrote down much. If you know what I'm
Even
saying,
if
like,
even if they did, being able to understand it is another matter.
yeah, there's that
Because
too.
generally, the only reason we pretty much have any idea what hieroglyphics are talking about is because of the Rosetta Stone. Without the Rosetta Stone, we wouldn't have a fucking clue.
Right.
And that's
We would
only
just make
because
wild, funny guesses at the
We
picnic.
that's all you
still
could
sort
do.
of do. We still sort of do make
Well, a
wild
good example
guesses.
would
Some
be
of them.
like I do not believe there are any known pathway. So you got things like ancient Mayan languages that are written because they're carved into stone, right? Stone is a fairly reliable way of transmitting data across ages because it wears very slowly, right? So I don't think there are any modern linkages of that ancient language to anything that currently exists.
Yep.
Therefore, there is no real way to
Decipher
grok
it.
what was. Yeah, you don't without a common point of reference. You can guess, if like frequency of symbols is
Yeah.
often a
So
clue. If it's commonly used, you could often
say it's
what
an and or
people.
a or a the or like
Well,
something that
well, no,
comes
not
up quite a lot in the English
if it's
language,
yeah,
if you know what I mean.
if it's an alphabetical based language, because obviously a lot of languages are hieroglyphical. So there seems to be two basic types. So you've got the hieroglyphical, which is essentially symbols representing entire concepts, of
Yep.
which you can place symbols together and they modify the concept. One I remember from hieroglyphics is that I can't remember the name of the thing, but there was a symbol that was like a big bubble, and essentially you'd put other symbols in there, and they're like names, so they're like a tag, a sentence, and you'd have the same symbols, but their meaning would be entirely changed by the fact that you're now using them in order to name something, so that the symbols have a dual use.
Yep.
In that context, right? So that would be one example. Another is how placing, rather than having symbols represent sounds phonetically, you could obviously have them represent concepts. So combining two concepts is something that I understand that happens a lot in scripts in use in the Orient. If that's not racist, I don't give a fuck if it is.
You mean Mandarin and stuff?
Mandarin, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, other languages that have similar. Yes, essentially, that's like putting two things together. One of them coming next to the other one means that the other one takes them. It's like a little story. I mean, they're pictographs.
It takes a different meaning to what it would be if it was just on its own.
Yeah, it's a bit like having a prefix to a word or something, except for it's much more dramatic, I suppose. It's kind of difficult. By no means an expert in any of this shit.
It's a difficult language as well. Like the types of languages, they're difficult to learn.
Well, this is why I separated it into two different domains, because I think that's about as different as two different language systems can get. I'm not aware of anything that really combines it. A lot of older languages seem to be mostly pictorial, and what seems to happen is you'll see pictorial languages, if they last long enough, what will happen is because it can take a long, say you've got ancient Egyptian, right, and you have to have these professional scribes go around, right, and they draw ornate little symbols, right. Now that takes a long fucking time. So what do you do as a human, right, for efficiency? Well, you simplify. Right. So you simplify. Instead of drawing like a massive curl, complicated curl, you draw like a simple curl.
Yeah.
And instead of drawing all these lines, you just draw a couple of lines, and you get the idea, right?
I take it that
as you reduce the amount of complexity, you start getting things that look much more abstract. You get things that start looking like letters rather than like the hieroglyphs they were before.
Yep. I take it that's what sometimes I've come across it, and obviously on the computers and programs and stuff, it asks you if you want to use simplified Chinese. I take it that's what that is. That's like a form of the same thing.
I believe that simplified Chinese is essentially, it's essentially a reduced, because obviously there's lots and lots of characters. It's not practical for a keyboard to represent like Chinese in that way. And now I believe simplified Chinese basically allows him to use fewer keystrokes, and it's a smaller alphabet, as it were, though it doesn't work in the same way as constructed words, my understanding. But yeah, essentially, why is it simplified? It's because there's too much fucking shit there, basically, to really be efficient.
Unless you want to build a massive keyboard, like that is 10 feet long or whatever, right?
I mean, this is the thing. There is basically no efficient way to have a language like that, the keyboard. You could use, I mean, until touchpad technology came along, I mean, you could see how, like, if the Apple Newton had worked correctly, you can see how then it would be practical for a user of a hieroglyphic type language to draw your hieroglyphs, have those symbols interpreted by the computer, and then it correctly get them. But then, obviously, that's taken some time before that technology has got better, because obviously hitting a key is a very binary. Well, that's the thing. Hitting a key is a very binary action. It either happened or it didn't happen.
Yep.
Drawing stuff requires some interpretation. Obviously, if you're not a very good drawer, or you fuck things up, or context can be important. For example, you can take, for example, like
the computer needs to work around that and sort of guess what you're trying to do.
Well, actually, a classic example is 0 and O.
Yep.
Right? Because most people write 0 and 0 as basically the same thing. So how would you know the difference? Well, most people just read things and they know the context.
Yep.
But most fonts try to make some difference between the 0 and the O.
Yeah,
So
with like
it's
the
clear what's
stroke
going
through
on.
it, so you know what. It's like a
Yes.
zero with a stroke
That
through
was
it.
Yeah, that's what they had in the Spectrum, as you well know. So,
Yes.
but of course, was it Norwegian? They have that's an actual accent. I think I don't remember what that's called.
I don't know. I just know it's like an O with a stroke through it, and that's definitely like a zero.
That is. Yes, that is one that's used for that was used a lot in the 80s. Not so much anymore. I mean, obviously nowadays you can choose. There's a whole wealth of fonts to choose from.
Yep.
Not that you couldn't have fonts in ZX Spectrum, but you'd have to load them in or
It was a
write
pain in
them
the
in
arse.
BASIC or some shit like that, and you could do it. And it's kind of like you could design fonts, and there's a couple of cool little routines that would automatically copy this default font and then make it bold or italic based upon some algorithm, because you could just basically thicken the lines or slant it, and you're bold and italic, and you wouldn't even have to really try. But that's by the by. The important point being that essentially a keystroke, pressing a key is binary. Drawing something is much more analog. It requires considerable more effort to get right. Therefore, the more opportunities there are for errors to occur, the more errors will occur. That's a simple little maxim to take away. The amount of errors that can occur with like a button and a wire is that the button stops working or the wire stops working. Right. Either way, it's either you get the right answer or you don't get an answer at all. So either the error state is forever. When there's ambiguity, right? Is this really correct or is this not correct? You don't know.
I don't
Maybe
know.
that's it. Obviously, things get much more tricky, and that's kind of where it comes to, which is, you see, the other thing about the difference is when you have a language with a lot of symbols, which essentially things like Chinese and all the various Chinese and Korean and Taiwanese and all that shit, right? Because they have a lot of symbols, are very efficient in the computer age at transmitting information. A good example being Twitter, because obviously a tweet limits your number of characters, but they're Unicode characters. So you basically have 32 bits of information, or some 14 billion characters to choose from. Now, obviously in English, we're talking about 26 plus punctuation, ignoring case. So, but in other languages that use hieroglyphic type representations, obviously you've got a lot more symbols to deal with. You only need a couple to put in whole sentences, so you could pack a lot more information into a single tweet where you're restricted in size, right? So that makes it very efficient there, simply because you increase the symbol set. You can do that, right? Now, I did consider whether it would be, because as I say, that at the end of the day, the reason why that works is not because it's essentially because if the size of a byte was 5 bits, so 32 different values, right? Then you could see how that would fit in the English alphabet with a couple of punctuation marks and so forth. And then there would be no benefit whatsoever. In fact, it basically would be difficult for someone who's a Chinese speaker to represent their alphabet correctly, because basically they don't have enough room in binary. But you can take that concept and you can apply it to the 32 bits. So you can fit 6 characters in 32 bits of English if you were going to take subsections of it and interpret them as individual letters rather. So what you could do, if you wanted to, is you could actually find out the Unicode for this like group of 5 symbols, put them into the tweet. So they'd probably look like smiley faces, or maybe Chinese or Korean, or I don't know, Klingon. I think that's ended up in Unicode somehow. Right? So it looked a bit weird, right? But if you took out the whole thing, you passed it into a program that just cares about looking at the individual bits, you could then get a message out. So it'd be a bit like type of stenography, which is stenography as opposed to cryptography is about hiding some shit. So yeah.
As long as you've got the code to break
work,
it down, then it would give you the English language version
because
of what
all
you've
you've
just put in.
yeah, all you've done is you've taken the bits that are used to basically when you use Unicode. Like I'm pretty sure it's Unicode 32.
It's basically numbers. It's basically
Yeah,
numbers.
it's numbers. You could use numbers to represent anything. So if you want to turn those numbers and sum up a representation, then there's nothing stopping you from doing that, as long
Yep.
as you and the other person both understand what you're trying to do.
Yep. Yeah, no,
Then you
that
can
brings
communicate.
me to another point with us now using digital more often. Not only does it last longer, but it will be a hell of a lot easier for people to decode in thousands of years' time, because it's a basic binary system. Like, so if they grasp numbers, they should be able to
Well, they'll be able to.
know
They'll
how it
certainly be able
works.
to recognise the mathematics. Anything mathematical. The problem will be. I mean,
The problem would be getting it precisely right, but still,
well, no.
it's going to
There'd
be
still be
easier.
no, there'd still be a problem. This is the same. This is the alien language problem, right? You see an alien language. I'm going to tell you. You can accept the premise. This is a language from a completely alien race. They don't live on Earth, right? And we know it's a language, and we know it's some sentence. How do you even begin to turn that into something you could understand?
Well, if they tell you that this is binary, right? So it's
their language is
definitely
in binary.
bits.
Right, okay. I'm going to tell you, there's an alien race that's written. Let's say it's the most famous. Let's say it's the most famous poem they have. It's fits in a sheet of A4. It's written in ones and zeros. We know it's from an alien planet. It's sent in contact or whatever. It's very clearly a non-natural phenomena. So we can see there's patterns in it or whatever that would determine that this is in fact an alien message. How would you even begin to be able to turn that sequence of zeros and ones into something that you could relate to as a human?
And I try and get a computer to go through it and
No,
see
you
what
get a
comes
computer.
out.
Right. Well, when you say what comes out, what do the ones and zeros mean?
Well, that's what the computer's going to figure out, right? Because you put the ones and zeros in a computer, and then the computer can go, what do these ones and zeros mean? And then you just brute force it.
That's
because
right,
it just sits there and brute force.
Right. Okay. So, do you want?
You know what I mean?
Force to what? Well, how can you brute force an alien language written in binary? How could you possibly do that?
Well,
You're not.
No. See.
Okay. Let's say you brute force it, and by some miracle you whatever brute force you actually mean, because this is not an encoded language. This is just a sequence of zeros and ones. Let's say.
Well, that's not exactly what I meant by
that
binary.
is exactly what we're talking about. That is
no,
what
but
binary
I meant no, but how we have like the letter A or whatever, and that's a sequence of numbers, right? That's what I meant.
That's a specific encoding, right?
Yes.
Right. If you didn't know the specific encoding.
Right, but we could like get a computer to come up with and see if it could make
an
English sentence. Right. No, because we use.
We don't speak
first
English.
of all, right.
The future people do not speak English.
Don't. Yeah, no, but I'm saying
the future people do not speak. This is your snowcat. The future people do not speak English. How are they going to program a computer to say, "Can you turn this into English, please?" Even though I don't know what English is.
No, but you would take the binary that they put.
I'll take the binary.
And then
computer,
you would turn this into English.
Could you turn this into a language I don't know about?
No, just turn it into English and see what comes out.
Yeah. Computer, could you turn this into a language I don't know exists? Could you do that for me? I mean, I don't know if it exists or not, but I'm sure you could do that.
No.
This is your scenario, Kat.
No.
No, you don't understand, because you're talking about.
You make a wish on a star.
They do not know that there's a thing called English. They do not know there's a thing called English. There may be this well-encoded, well-patterned sequence of digital numbers that exist all over the place now that represent English in UTF, 8, 16, 32, whatever, right? ASCII, EDIBC, whatever, right? The point being, you cannot come back 10,000 years later with no reference point to what any of that shit is and say, computer, turn all this sequence.
No, but you would find. What I'm saying is, you would find it though. Like you
How
would
would
find,
you find it?
old bits
How
of
would you-
digital data
you
that
don't
would
know- okay,
show
no,
you
no.
how the code worked.
How? How would you know? How would you know what's a program and what's data? It's all ones and zeros. All of it is ones and zeros.
Well, you plug in a hard drive, and then it shows you how to do it.
You plug in
You
a
would
hard
have to
drive.
reverse engineer. You'd have to reverse engineer the code, right?
Right. Now, how difficult do you think that would be?
Pretty difficult, but not impossible.
Right. So, what are the requirements for being able to reverse engineer?
Sort of knowing a wee bit of how it could work, sort of guesswork until you get it to work, right? That's sort of how it works. Or you take something apart that's already built and you find
How
out
do you know? Well, no. How do you know when you're done?
when all the bits are all over the place. And you're like, yeah, I've took everything apart.
No, I mean,
I quite know how to put it all back together now.
Let's
try and see.
What is the point of this exercise? The point of this exercise is your future race who is
No, I'm saying
they might technology.
Yeah, they might uncover wee bits of computers and shit, and they'll find like hard drives and shit like that all over the place, and they're trying to put all this information together and see what comes out. Right, so
and I'm just trying to explain to you how immensely difficult that task is.
Oh, it would be difficult.
Basically impossible without a common reference frame, which is why I'm talking about the alien.
Which
problem.
they might find one, though, right?
No, let's say something as basic as this, Kat. I could be an alien in another galaxy. I could send you a message, and you know it's a message from me, and it could be, raise your A hand. Now, A hand could be your left or right. How do you know which one's your A hand?
Send them a message back and ask them which hand they were talking about.
Okay, your A hand is the one that's not your B hand.
What's my B hand?
Your B hand is the one that's not your A hand.
You know, but
what
what's
else are
my
they going to
left
tell
hand?
you? Right, your left hand's the one that's not the right hand.
What you would do is you would hold two different.
My hands.
You would hold two different colors. Wait. You would hold two different colors in each hand and ask them which colored hand.
You can't send colors.
No, colors?
This is text. This is text only.
No, you can't do that.
Okay.
Not that necessarily. Of course, an alien species would have the same color perception as a human. In fact, it seems fairly unlikely. The point is, this is a communication channel. Even if you had color, right? You don't.
It'd be really hard. But the other way to do it is if we get
impossible to get orientation. Without a common frame of reference, it is absolutely impossible.
Which could be mathematics.
Right. So, but mathematics cannot tell you, for example, they can tell you the shape of the letter S. It cannot tell you the meaning, because in order to encode the meaning into it, languages have to be considerably more precise. Now, this is why
you still wouldn't know how to pronounce it. You still wouldn't know how to pronounce it.
Well, obviously.
Well, it is possible to encode. I mean, these sounds and such are encoded, but essentially, this is why language is a living system, because when all the speakers, when all the speakers of the language are dead, effectively the language is dead as well. We've got Latin obviously exists in written form, but it no longer exists in spoken form. There's parts of it existing, right? But certainly there are no native Latin speakers, and we really don't know how they sounded. There's no recordings.
Actually, talking about that, do you know another language that's dying the same way? It's Scottish and Irish Gaelic. There's very few living people that can properly speak the two languages.
And that's the thing. And I know there are obviously recordings and such, so at least it will be. It may have no natural speakers anymore, but it would have the possibility of at least being archived.
But again, you would need to know what they were talking about.
Right.
If you know what I'm saying.
Which is why, in order for that to work, what you're going to have, you're going to have a translation to English.
Yep.
Right? And if English becomes ununderstood, you need a translation from English to something else. You need to have something that is a living language. In order to understand an older language, you need to have a living language linked all the way back to
it somewhere. Yeah.
which is why I brought up Egyptian, because without the Rosetta Stone, we simply would not have a fucking clue. We guess, but we
was the Rosetta Stone?
The Rosetta Stone was the same.
Egypt, it had the Jewish language on it, and it had one other. It had 3 different languages on it.
Hebrew, Greek, and Egyptian. I think it was Middle Kingdom Egyptian.
Right.
Because it's different. Because that's the thing. Ancient Egyptians lasted a couple of thousand years, so their language evolved as well.
So that was like
you've got one Rosetta
decoder
Stone.
thing.
A bit, yeah, but it's, the other thing is, of course, not all of it is there. It's like Stone obviously at some point was complete, but bits of it smashed off. So you haven't even got all of the fucking thing.
Right, so it must have been someone that knew and sort of wrote down all the languages for that purpose.
Exactly. Well, they probably wrote it. It was probably something like I don't actually remember the content, but it's a bit like when like in like Belgium they put everything in French and fucking Flemish, right? It's going to be something like that. It's going to be like public notices and shit like that. I can't remember what that was for. I mean, it could be just an aesthetic thing, right? Somebody saying, "Look, I was," or like it could have been for like scribes. I can see how that would be.
Yeah, maybe just an artist.
If you're well, scribes really aren't art. That was a profession. So if you're a scribe and your job is basically languages, you're going to want a reference point to say these are the most
a translator.
Yeah, because you're not just going to be a scribe. You're probably going to be a translator. You're probably going to have to speak several different languages. This is your profession. This is how you get fucking paid. Yeah. Right.
But, that brings me to another thing. If we left something on, I'm pretty sure they've probably done this anyway. If the computer thing again, if we left how the computers worked, then if we left our computer Rosetta Stone, maybe that would work.
Well, this is why it's such an interesting question, because again, it's a difficult thing. Like, so if you're going to build an archive, so people go, "Oh, right, global war's not happening," or God's going to rapture us up, or meteorite's going to hit, or the volcanoes will explode at once and we'll be covered in lava. Okay, some Armageddon happens, and you go, okay, let's think outside the box, right? Every human's eventually going to die. Can we create a little archive? An ark is kind of a living thing, because that's so, like just like
they've got one. They've got one for all the different species and stuff that they freeze in that place somewhere underground, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, you could say we could say an ark or like a capsule. Basically, the point is, could you create let's call it a museum? You could say it's a museum of humanity that could be understood by things that are not humans, but you could say are also intelligent, sentient beings.
Yep.
That would be the problem, wouldn't it?
I'm pretty sure they've done that, though. I'm pretty sure they're either done it or they're working on it. That's one of the things that they're doing, but I don't know who or where, or I can remember seeing a documentary on it or something.
But what I'm talking about are the problems essentially associated with trying
that's what the documentary was talking about.
Yeah.
Don't they use music? Don't they use music?
Well, what if you got no
That's
ears?
one. But if you don't
I know that would be. I don't.
Fucking useless.
The Voyager probes had.
They put in a bunch of different things.
The Voyager probes had that wee thing on it. Remember?
It had a disc etched in. It basically had a sort of LP etched in it. It had a picture of man and woman. It had like the
location of Earth in the solar system
in binary, and it had like the first primes. See how many other primes are going. It's like solar system. In fact, where the boundaries of the solar system are get redefined.
It actually just has. It just has a.
I mean, it's here and there. The basic point
left the actual solar system.
The basic point being, it's going to be unless there are any aliens right on our doorstep, they ain't fucking getting there anytime soon, right? So,
well, I know, but it's just something that it's one of the things that they've tried and they've sort of.
But I think basically what I'm saying is that is not a serious attempt to communicate with aliens.
No,
I just want to be very clear. That was not them seriously attempting to communicate with aliens. They thought, fuck it, we'll put this shit on there. Maybe it will get there. We don't fucking know. It's kind of like a fun little PR thing. It probably won't happen, but whatever, right? It's a nice little thing to put out there. We're shooting out. Humanity's shooting out further than
the shit.
We're shooting the shit out further than we've ever shot the shit out. So we might as well send a little bit of humanity to this Voyager probe. So
and
that's
if it
basically what it comes down to. It won't have a fucking clue what it is apart from a big chunk of metal.
Unless they're really fucking intelligent, they have a clue where it is and go, these shitheads are trying to communicate, let's go fuck them up. Here's our location.
Frankly, it's more likely to be Captain Kirk coming back and saying, this is an old Earth probe that's turned into a giant alien.
Star Trek 1.
Yes, that's actually, I would say that's an actually more likely fucking scenario of understanding that fucking thing.
Yep. I loved that movie. A lot of people hated it, but I quite liked Star Trek 1, the first one.
That's because a lot of people are like, it's slow. But I like it slow.
No, it's great. He finds Voyager. It tries to fuck him up because it's been infected with like some type of computery virus thing from these aliens.
Or something. It's not infected because it was never sophisticated enough. The point is, it went through a wormhole to an alien planet, which is basically a sort of technological planet. They found this probe. They enhanced it with technology so it could go and fulfill its original mission. So basically, they sort of like treated it like a wounded animal. I mean, that's the impression I get anyway. This alien planet planetary.
It's so long since I've seen it.
We need to fix this wounded animal that dropped out of we encountered, or dropped out of the sky, or came in. We'll fix it up and we'll send it on its way again, right?
Yep.
And on its way again, on the way back to Earth, it sucked up all this information. It kept on growing and growing in order to encompass all the information it was absorbing about everything it encountered on its way back to Earth. Yep. And that's my interpretation of what was going on there, basically.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. It's been so long since I watched it, though, so I just remember it being a fucking thing. I just remember saying, it was Star Trek, they found the fucking probe, didn't they? And it started attacking them.
Voyager 7 for the record.
Not the Voyager
7, not Voyager 1 or 2, which are the ones
there we go.
There we go, you're in. What was I saying? I have to reiterate, not the new shitty Star Trek, not that abomination.
2009 versus 1979.
That one, the old one, the proper one.
That was the same year as Alien, if I remember correctly. 1979.
It's very good. I quite like it because it was in. When I seen it, I was into all this Voyager stuff and all that space stuff. And then when I seen it, I was like, "Holy shit! Why do people not like this movie? I quite like it."
I don't know.
So
people dislike the fact that it was slow.
But it's slow. It's slow and interesting in a scientific type Star Trek-y way for me. You know,
this is why the
Wait,
new films are
what movie? Alien? The original
Star
Alien?
Trek. The original proper Star Trek.
The new movies are not Star Trek. It's that simple.
No, they're not.
Star Trek is not about shooting things in space.
No, it's.
That's the basic problem with the next gen films as well. That they're fucking boring as shit.
They got a really good actor for Spock though, and that I think is the only redeeming quality of the movie. Is just that's a really nice Spock. Good job on that.
Philosophy is boring, Deus Ex. Philosophy is boring. I said philosophy is boring.
No, I didn't. I didn't say anything. What? Where did you get that from?
Nobody said anything.
You said.
No, the next gen movie that I do like is for the shooting and action and stuff and other wee bits in there is the one with the Borg, First Contact.
Everybody says
that is quite good. That is quite good.
Everybody says that. Of all of the next gen movies, that's the one everyone comes to, and that's pretty much it. I fell asleep in the cinema in Insurrection. It was fucking so fucking bored. I fell asleep at that one. First time I've ever fallen asleep in a movie.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
Didn't see Nemesis at the cinema. That was whatever. It's kind
that was meh. Yeah, it's too much shooty.
First Contact is fun, but it's stupid.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's fun. It's
what
fun
about
and
Generation?
stupid, but it's quite
You know,
good.
what about the first one, Generations? You know,
Oh
with
God,
with that
that's
weird
awful.
cloud.
Well, look,
That's awful.
I saw that in the cinema. That was '94, and I remember at the time thinking, why the fuck did I literally just see this? The rocket flew up and it hit the star as if it was like a couple of feet in the air.
Yeah,
Did I literally just see that?
yeah.
It's like when they say, see, this is the thing. Because I actually pay attention to what shit was written, it's like, okay, so they're saying it will reach the star in like 30 seconds, so it must be going at warp speed, right? Because it couldn't at sublight speed possibly reach the star that far. No, apparently it just flies up for a bit and it hits the star. Who the fuck is writing this shit? What fucking
Retard.
child? No, this is not. This is a
Wait, hold on.
6-year-old child understanding of astrophysics.
But Deus Ex,
Yeah.
Deus Ex. You know, Star Trek is known for having actual physicists on the writing
but not
staff.
that fucking film. I can
Yeah,
tell you
it
that.
was. None of the films, though. None of the new ones. Maybe earlier it did. Now it doesn't. And back then, half of them didn't. I mean, come on. Some of them did, but very few of
Well,
them.
I mean, you know, I
Especially the
think,
Probably after Gene Roddenberry died.
I
shit
think
started
why
going
you
down.
know
Yeah.
I think why the you know the series were good is because they were relatively physically possible.
Yes,
You know.
sort of, in a way. Yeah,
Not
but that's
really.
why.
I mean, it's more that they were. It's more internal consistency. If you're going to come up with a fantastical thing, at least be consistent about its usage.
Yeah,
Right?
but I loved how they came up with like wee
can't
things
just-
that would make
You
it
can't-
work. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
it's
They would
yeah,
just
it's fine as long as you don't keep on changing the rules. If you keep on changing the rules,
yes,
then you've gone from science fiction into fantasy. It's magic.
yes,
That's all
and
it is.
that's yeah, no, that's what I liked
Well,
about Star
well,
Trek. They
I
explained how shit worked,
any
if you know what I mean.
any technology that's advanced enough appears like magic to
No,
Yeah, well, that
no,
Arthur C.
no,
Clarke
no,
said that.
no,
Right?
no.
Yes, but
That's not what he's saying.
You've
Missed how it works.
Yes, because because in order for science actually describes how something works. Magic is basically just saying this
It
thing
worked.
worked. It worked. You don't need to know
Yeah.
how it worked. It just worked, right? So if you could choose either, I don't mind, right? If you're gonna have like a fantasy world where you say some magic words and shit happens, I'm fine
Say
with that. I'm on
superheroes
board,
or
right?
any of that, or like.
Yeah,
But science fiction is supposed to be based in science,
if
so you've got to come
it,
up with the concept of something that
it doesn't
does
have to be.
something.
It doesn't have to be real science, but what it does have
No.
to be is consistent.
You can even make up your own physics for your own world, but it just needs to be
Exactly. There's
consistent.
people literally do that, right? People literally,
Mhm.
like especially anybody who's studying like multiverse theories, so they think about, all right, well, what if we had a universe where gravity was 10 times stronger and like the weak
Well,
magnetic force, what would be the impact on the construction of the universe and all that kind of shit, right?
Deus
Yeah,
Ex.
So
well,
you can literally do
Hold
that.
on.
I mean, a
Kitty, one sec.
replicator worked with, like, the way they explained it is basically it takes the stuff, your piss and your shit and stuff like that, and then gets all the molecules out of that, and then turns it into
Recombines.
the molecules.
Yeah, well, I mean,
recombines the
the
molecules into
the science of replicator
Earl
makes
Grey
sense.
and all that, right?
It's
Now
like it's
that is
physically
science.
pretty
That's
better.
science fiction, right? But it explains how that machine would work, rather than saying,
Yeah.
Science
you
fiction
just,
turns into science facts. Science fact.
some of it does. Some of it does. Some of it doesn't.
Not just because you can imagine it doesn't mean it's possible.
Yeah, but the point is,
not
it wasn't
always,
just.
but
They
a
didn't just say,
replicator-
"Oh, it's magic." They didn't just say, "Oh, it's magic." They actually went into how it could work, and that's the difference between science fiction and fantasy.
Yeah, how it could work, but what they use. Deus Ex right now said that just because you can imagine it doesn't mean you can build it. Okay, yes, sometimes, but maybe often. Look, what I'm getting.
Well, look, I could say I want it to be true that I can travel faster than the speed of light, but that doesn't mean it can happen. There are things that the universe may just not be possible to achieve. Now you could say, all right, well, wormholes and stuff. Like, okay, well, what if you can't produce a wormhole? What if that's just a theoretical construct, etc., etc. All I'm simply pointing out is the fact that should be obvious to everyone. That's just you can imagine
hang on.
not actually possible. So I can imagine
Yes, because
I can imagine turning you inside
no,
out.
but the difference is I could imagine like Superman that can fly the way Superman does, right? But that's magic, whereas imagining faster than light speed is more science fiction because it might be possible if I come up with a theory that actually works.
Well, that's the reason why they call them warp drives, because the basic idea at the time was rather than actually travelling faster than
it warps space-time.
You warp space-time in order to produce the illusion that you're travelling faster than light.
Doesn't the theory of relativity and other theories, say a warp bubble is actually possible? I mean, they're working on it. Hopefully, eventually,
they'll get it. Whether it's
Yes.
actually something you can construct or not is another matter.
That's the
There's a difference between. It's like.
And then we could finally maybe go to Mars instead of sending celebrities there.
Theoretically, it is possible, but whether or not.
Yeah, but can I just point out that
is different matter.
Can I just point out that the things we thought were impossible 100 years ago are possible now. So who the hell knows what's possible?
No, that's not the same thing.
The things that people thought were impossible 100 years ago were always possible. They just thought they were impossible. There is a very clear distinction there.
But that's my point.
No, it's not the same.
I have been very precise in my language for a reason.
Yes, it's not the same thing. There's a big difference.
I'm not saying something is impossible. What I'm saying is it is very likely that some of the things you can imagine, because you can imagine things that are not possible to construct, may not be possible to construct. It's a tautology, but that's what it is, right? You can imagine things that can't possibly exist. That is a possibility.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine something that can't possibly exist, then it can't possibly happen.
But doesn't that raise the question of where imagination comes from in the first place?
No.
Why not?
What? Wait,
because it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to the postulate. It's completely how imagination occurs, and that statement, they have no relationship to each other.
Like imagination happens in the brain, like.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it happens in the brain. It doesn't matter if it's telegraphed. It doesn't matter if it comes over a wire, beamed into your head by the CIA.
The point is, you don't know how to build it.
How imagination works.
Like, if I imagine I'm Superman, right? How do I become Superman?
Just because you can imagine a Superman doesn't mean there can be a Superman.
And that's my point.
That's the point. Yes.
Yeah. Whereas if I came up with a way through, I don't know, you couldn't, because it's totally, completely impossible. But say you wrote down like a scientific explanation of how it happened, then you tried it to find out if it worked. Then that makes it more sci-fi than just magic, I would say.
Well, yeah, basically, you've got this whole
what I mean?
The sun's yellow rays and the red dwarf's red rays, and that causes problems.
Yeah, no, it's bullshit.
None of that makes any fucking sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Anybody who has a casual understanding of light.
Even the comics don't even make sense in that, because at some point,
that's what
at some point he goes back.
Shit together. They were never trying to create this grand fucking consistent universe.
This is why at some point he goes back to Krypton, right? At some point he goes back to Krypton and he's still got the superpowers. Now, if it was our yellow sun that gave him the superpowers, how the fuck has he still got them when he goes back to his home planet?
Right.
Oh, hang on. He
doesn't work that way.
He was probably charged.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't, because the red sun stopped him getting charged. Oh, just no.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
There's so many holes in it that it just doesn't know.
Which comes to my point, right? That is the essence. Can you imagine this story? Yes, you can imagine this story. Is this story possible? It's not even internally consistent.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
This is what we're talking about. Can you imagine things that are internally inconsistent? Yes. Can internally inconsistent things exist? I would have to postulate no.
Probably no. But can, like, the way Star Trek does things exist? There's a bigger possibility of that than the other one. You know what I mean? That's why I liked it.
That's essentially what it comes down to, is your plausibility meter.
This whole discussion reminds me of a book series that I'm reading. And it's like a vampire book series, but instead of being like magical curse kind of thing, the vampires have bio-nanotechnology that like this like goes with Atlantis or something, which is a lost city, which then has some fantasy.
Yes.
But the Atlantis people did bio-nanotechnology, and then they got that in their bloodstream to help people heal. But because the body's always getting damaged from the sun and from just aging, the nanos never like left the body like they were supposed to. They just continuously repair it, and then that's like a kind of sci-fi. Yeah, that's kind of a sci-fi vampire like explanation. I love it. But
is it plausible? Who the hell knows? I don't know.
Who knows? But it's the reason that they continue to live, and then they also darn it. Okay. Then they also let me try to remember, because I'm reading it like recently, but that's how. Oh yeah, and then the nanos take up blood or whatever, use their blood to do the repairing of the damage, which is why they need to drink blood and stuff. Vampires.
Huh? What's happened? Hello?
Well, okay. Well, what's there here? But Deus, if the whole,
guys, it's time for YouTube fuckers to go away, because
alright, then go away.
it should have happened like half an hour ago. I'm a wee bit late.
Almost half an hour. It should have happened like 22 minutes ago, but we got on a discussion and I didn't want to say anything.
Look, this is how it works, right? If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, I will reveal them exclusively on aerithradio.co.uk. You can see it on the screen if you are watching.
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Get off your fucking smartphone. Look at the screen now. Tie that into your computer box, and then go there.
Yeah. Or type it in your smartphone as well, and it works on that, and whatever your thing is of your thing that does things and gets you to the internet. Just use that and type that in, and then hit the button, and then that should be fine. But before we go, just to annoy YouTube, I have a video that I need to share with everyone. So I'm going to stop sharing that one, and it's only a 2-second video. But just before we go, I have to do this because it's fucking funny. I think it's funny.
Just get on with it.
I know. Well, hang on. I need to close windows and stuff.
Well, this thing is worth.
Right. See.
Well, that's Peter Griffin.
Yes. So let's see if this works. So there you go. Yep. You can see that, right?
I can. Yeah.
Let's see if I press.
Well, this thing is worthless, like my Palestinian alarm clock. Allahu Akbar!
So yes, bye YouTube.